गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। जय हिंद, प्रणाम, सत श्री अकाल एंड हाउ आर यू? राइट, टुडे we'll first go through a few issues of the five paths for China. एक ये जो I got a very interesting article which I read. Actually, I had read it long back, but I rediscovered it, or I thought, let me share it with everyone. And then, of course, I'll take on all your questions which you have and whatever you want to answer on any other subject, right? But this is a very interesting, you know, article which I thought I'll share with you. This is written by someone called Michael Pettis, and he wrote it for the Carnegie Center. ये लिखा 2-3 साल पहले ही है, पुराना आर्टिकल है, बट इसके अंदर जो डेप्थ है दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट एंड दैट एक्चुअली टेल्स यू वेयर चाइना इज हेडिंग, राइट? So just have a look at it, right? Michael Pettis wrote this for the Carnegie Endowment. The only 5 paths China's economy can follow. And what does he say in the top? There is increasingly a consensus in Beijing that China's excessive reliance on surging debt in recent years has made the country's growth model unsustainable. ये सबको पता है उनको कि ये जो कर्ज उन्होंने लिया है and the debt fueled infrastructure based growth is not sustainable, right? तो इस लिहाज से इसने 5 पाथ दिया है, बट बेसिक थिंग इसने एक इन द preamble to his 5 paths he's written this: higher GDP for China doesn't mean a better economic outcome than lower GDP. GDP से हम सब सोचते हैं जीडीपी का, इफ जीडीपी चाइना हैज अ बेटर जीडीपी वो अच्छा है चाइना के लिए, और वो मतलब वो नंबर 1 है। नहीं, ये इसके मुताबिक हायर जीडीपी हो या लोअर जीडीपी कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता। It just means that the authorities were more willing to employ resources for creating economic activity, whether or not that activity is productive or sustainable. आप कोई भी एक्टिविटी करो वो जीडीपी में इजाफा होता है। पर बात मैं हर वक्त जो बोलता रहता हूँ आप हम सब लोगों को कि योर एक्टिविटी हैज टू बी प्रॉफिटेबल एंड बेटर फॉर द पीपल। इफ दैट इज नॉट देयर देन दैट जीडीपी इज यूजलेस। एंड चाइना में क्या है कि बहुत जीडीपी जो है वो यूजलेस जीडीपी है। A better economic outcome for China is not more GDP growth, but more genuine growth and less inflated growth. दो चीजें इसमें इसने दिया, that it should be more genuine, less inflated. That's what he is saying. And whereas the worst outcome is the opposite. Right. Why have I chosen Michael Pettis? I mean, है कौन ये? Michael Pettis teaches in Tsinghua University. पिछले 10 साल से he is teaching in Tsinghua University. He is affiliated with most think tanks. And as far as the property, real estate, and economy, that part of the economy, he is considered a global expert, right? And everyone, even Nobel laureates, quote him. That is why I got this article, which is actually a beautiful article, and I'm quoting him. So, main thing क्या है कि higher GDP will not give you better outcomes than a lower GDP, and higher GDP or any GDP has to be genuine and not inflated. That's the thing in this preamble. And what is important is that this is what Xi Jinping says, of all people. What does he say? He says, I said that we needed to shift the focus to improving the quality and returns of economic growth, to promoting sustained and healthy economic development. So, main kya hai? He's talking of quality, returns of economic growth. He's talking of sustained and healthy economic development, and to pursuing genuine rather than inflated GDP growth. ये जी जिनपिंग को भी पता है कि इन्फ्लेटेड ग्रोथ हो रहा है अपने देश में, ठीक। एंड अचीविंग हाई क्वालिटी, efficient and sustainable development is the crux of the whole story. And ये ऐसी ये नहीं है, ये जो आर्टिकल है ये इनके एक ऑफिशियल चाइना का वेबसाइट में पब्लिश हुआ है 5-6 साल पहले। देखिए, जी जिनपिंग कोई बेवकूफ आदमी नहीं है कि उसको पता नहीं है कि उसको देश में क्या हो रहा है, पर फिर भी ऐसे चल रहा है, राइट। वो क्यों चल रहा है वो उसके अलग कारण है, राइट। एक्चुअली वो फंस चुके हैं, वो किस कितना बुरी तरीके से फंस चुके हैं आपको ये जो 5 बात है इससे पता चल जाएगा। ये माइकल पेटिस ने जो लिखा है, एज पर माइकल पेटिस, चाइना कैन स्टे ऑन इट्स करंट पाथ एंड कीप letting large amounts of non-productive investment continue driving the GDPs, continue driving the country's debt burden up indefinitely. So that's the first part, जो हो रहा है उसको चलने दीजिए। Second path, China can reduce the large amount of non-productive investment on which it relies to drive growth and replace it with productive investment in forms like new technology. So take non-productive out, put new technology in, and this is what this is what Xi Jinping is trying. यही इसका ये है कि टेक्नोलॉजी के ऊपर जोर। Number 2 path, China can reduce the large amount of non-productive investment on which it relies to drive growth and replace it with rising consumption. अगर लोग कंज्यूम करेंगे तो the GDP will go up automatically. The fourth path is China can reduce the large amount of non-productive investment on which it relies to drive growth and replace it with a growing trade surplus. इसका मतलब export ज़्यादा. Last point, China can reduce the large amount of non-productive investment on which it relies to drive growth and replace it with nothing. कुछ नहीं कर सकते, सिर्फ वो जो बिल्डिंग बना रहे हैं, रेल बना रहे हैं, बंद कर दो, in which case growth would necessarily slow sharply. ठीक, मोटा मोटा ये 5 आते हैं। इसके अलावा और कोई there's no other way out for China other than these paths, and it's very stark. And it is not as if the Chinese do not know. They know it fully well and they're attempting this. The question is, can they make it happen? Okay, well, let's see the first path. What's the first path? Can China keep doing what it has been doing so far? क्या कर सकता है? जारी रखो इसी को, यही कहानी। For China to stay on its current path of high level growth fueled by non-productive investment, the country would need to allow a persistent, indefinite increase in its debt burden. सब कर्जे में, इसका लोकल गवर्नमेंट भी कर्जे में डूब जाएंगे, लोगों को भी कर्जे में डूबना पड़ेगा, पूरा गवर्नमेंट को भी डूबना पड़ेगा। इसका मतलब सिर्फ कर्जा का गुब्बारा बढ़ता जाएगा। दिस इज नॉट सस्टेनेबल, ये जारी नहीं रख सकते, राइट? Okay, what is the second path? China can replace non-productive investment with productive investment. वही टेक्नोलॉजी, प्रोडक्टिव। बट इससे पहले कि मैं आगे पढ़ूं, मैं बताना चाहता हूं टेक्नोलॉजी इज अ हाई रिस्क सेक्टर। ये प्रोडक्टिव होगा या नहीं पता नहीं किसी को, और ऊपर चाइना ने चिप के ऊपर पाबंदी लगा दिया और हाई टेक्नोलॉजी चाइना को मिल नहीं रहा। तो वेदर technology will make it productive, Xi Jinping's endeavor in space and cyber वगैरह वगैरह, क्या ये productive होगा? पता नहीं। So what does Michael Pettis say? Beijing could bring debt under control while maintaining high growth rates by replacing non-productive investment with investment in more productive economic sectors, जो मैंने बताया technology, basically technology. Chinese authorities have been proposing this for many years as the most likely path to follow, but they have been unable to fulfill these promises. Why? ये to follow this path of high technology, you need private sector. और जी जिनपिंग ने प्राइवेट सेक्टर को तोड़ दिया. आफ्टर ऑल जो अलीबाबा, टेंसेंट, म्यूटियन, दीदी, ये सब क्या थे? टेक्नोलॉजी सेक्टर्स, प्राइवेट बट टेक्नोलॉजी, उसने तोड़ दिया. अभी दोबारा वो प्राइवेटाइज करना चाहता है, क्या कर पाएगा? यही क्वेश्चन मार्क है. 2007 से ये ट्राई कर रहे हैं. China can replace non-productive investment with rising consumption, or rather, can China replace non-productive investment with rising consumption? कंजम्पशन की जरूरत है, दैट इज आम लोग ज्यादा खर्च करें, वो ट्राई कर रहे हैं, वो वाउचर दे रहे हैं, सबको प्रॉपर्टी का मॉर्गेज सस्ता कर रहे हैं, लोन सस्ता कर रहे हैं, सबको बोल रहे हैं कि भाई लोन ले लो. वो मैं कल भी मैंने जारी किया था. सो राइट, बीजिंग कैन ब्रिंग debt under control while maintaining high growth rates by replacing non-productive investment with a rising consumption share of GDP. जैसे हमारे देश में कंजम्पशन है. This is what Beijing has been proposing since at least March 2007. 2007 से ये दोनों ट्राई कर रहे हैं. ऑलरेडी 16 साल हो गए पर हो नहीं पाया. राइट? उस वक्त के प्रीमियर वेंजियाबाओ ने अनाउंस किया था कि पूरा इकोनॉमी को रीबैलेंस करना है ताकि डोमेस्टिक डिमांड और कंजम्पशन बढ़ाना है. और ये एक टॉप प्रायोरिटी था चाइना का, और हो नहीं पाया. क्यों नहीं हो पाया? क्योंकि चाइना के लोग खर्च नहीं करते. आश्चर्य होगा, इनके सेविंग्स रेट सबसे हाईएस्ट सेविंग रेट्स इन द वर्ल्ड है. ये मैं कल या परसों एक वीडियो में मैंने जैसे बोला था आपको कि मेरा मानना ये है कि चाइना का इकोनॉमी कभी वापस नहीं आएगा, कब इनफैक्ट इट विल डिक्लाइन. वो डिक्लाइन कैसे होगा वो मैं एक लंबा चौड़ा मैंने एनालिसिस किया है. वो आई विल डू इट मे बी टुमारो और मे बी नेक्स्ट वीक. वो ऑलमोस्ट तैयार है मेरा, और उसमें बड़ा क्लियर है कि इनका इकोनॉमी दोबारा वापस उभरेगा नहीं जिस दलदल में फंसा है. राइट? सो दिस इज आउट ऑफ द क्वेश्चन. सो पाथ 4, can China replace non-productive investment with rising trade surplus? Rising trade surplus मतलब export. Another way Beijing could bring debt under control while maintaining high growth rates would be by replacing non-productive investment with a rising trade surplus. While this option is possible in theory, in practice it isn't. और ये इसने लिखा 3-4 साल पहले. ठीक, अभी at this time where the geopolitical situation is completely against China, exports are going down, there's global inflation, this is out of question. But this is a path they can take if they want. They can try to some extent. ये try कर रहे हैं through BRA. ये एशियन कंट्रीज को लुभा रहे हैं, अफ्रीका में जा रहे हैं, ये अभी ब्रिक्स में ये ट्राई कर रहे हैं. इनफैक्ट चाइना इज ट्राइंग ऑल पाथ्स because they have to break through somewhere. Going on the old path is not an option. Remaining on the current path is not an option. क्या ये सक्सीड होंगे बाकी 3 पार्ट्स में? ये मैं आगे करूंगा क्योंकि मेरा मानना है कि ये स्टेबलाइज नहीं हो पाएंगे. पाथ 5, What happens if China does nothing to replace non-productive investment? यानी कि आप बिल्डिंग बनाना बंद कर दो, ये कनाल बनाना बंद कर दो, रेल लाइंस जो फालतू के हैं वो सब बंद कर दो. राइट. गिवन दैट इन्वेस्टमेंट अकाउंट्स, वो जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इन्वेस्टमेंट है 40 से 45% तक है, 45% तक ऑफ द जीडीपी इन चाइना. With investment in infrastructure and property accounting for nearly 2/3 of that amount, it is clear that a significant reduction in non-productive investment, if it is not replaced with another equivalent source of growth, must result in a sharp contraction of China's GDP growth. Okay. His back of the envelope calculation suggests that the upper limit of GDP growth for many years, should that prove to be the case, would be likely to be 2 to 3%. इसका मतलब इनका जीडीपी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो जाएगा. अगर आप रेलवे लाइन नहीं बनाओगे, बिल्डिंग नहीं बनाओगे, प्रॉपर्टी नहीं बनाओगे, रियल एस्टेट नहीं बनाओगे, कंजम्पशन भी नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, तो और आप कुछ नहीं करोगे, और नॉन प्रोडक्टिव इन्वेस्टमेंट जो चाइना के अंदर हो रहा है उसको अगर आप निकाल दोगे तो जीडीपी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो जाएगा. ये पॉलिटिकली चाइना को मंजूर नहीं होगा. इनफैक्ट this fifth option is being forced on them. They're being forced to take this fifth option because they have no choice. So they're looking at the second, third, and the fourth options. But where will they break through? We'll see. Okay. In nutshell, what he says, whatever Beijing decides, one way or other, China will be forced to shift from the first path to one or more of the other four paths listed above. Although, because of the size of the Chinese economy, the fourth path, replacing bad investment with surging current account surplus, is extremely implausible. यानी exports खत्म. ये सब लोगों ने लिख दिया तकरीबन 3-4 साल पहले. अभी तो the problem is becoming more संगीन, right? But at the same time, because the first path isn't sustainable, यानी कि अभी कुछ मत करो, ऐसे चलते रहो, it is not sustainable, right? This also means that the other Chinese policymakers will find some way to overcome the historical difficulties associated with the second and third path. Export नहीं हो रहा है, so they have to go to technology. That's the second path, right? And the consumption, which is the third path. Okay. Or they will be forced eventually onto the fifth path. Because they cannot go in for infrastructure beyond a point, because it will be wasted infrastructure. Right? They'll be forced, right, onto the fifth path. That's what he says. Historical precedent suggests that the longer it takes for Beijing to make this decision, the more economically difficult and politically disruptive the ultimate adjustment is likely to be. अगर ना किया तो हो सकता है ये कभी नहीं होगा, क्योंकि जैसे बढ़ता जाएगा इसका जो कीमत है बढ़ता जाएगा. Right? That is the fundamental thing, and this is where today's talk on these 5 paths which China's economy can follow ends. I would suggest those of you who are interested to know really about China's economy, go by this. And ये जो मैं विश्लेषण कर रहा हूँ वो उसमें भी ये 5 paths will come, and maybe if I'm ready by tomorrow I'll talk about it tomorrow, otherwise I'll talk about it later. Fine. Now I'll take on questions. Okay, I'll go from the top to bottom. Good evening to all. That fine. Arzu Zain says, Vanakkam and Jai Hind. Jai Hind, Arzu, how are you? Tarun says, sir, what is happening in Hong Kong? No news. Yeah, Hong Kong में कुछ नहीं हो रहा. Hong Kong is now a Chinese province for all this thing, except there's certain laws which are continuing, but that's about all. So, in any case, China has got a lot of problems and floods. आजकल in Twitter you see only floods of Beijing. Okay. सर यूएसए इंडिया को यूज करके चाइना और इंडिया के बीच लड़ाई करवाना चाहता है. भाई यूएसए ने कभी हमसे ये नहीं बोला कि आप चाइना के साथ लड़ लो, और चाइना को कभी नहीं बोला इंडिया के साथ लड़ लो. हमारा दोनों का पुराना एक बॉर्डर का प्रॉब्लम है फ्रॉम पिछले दशक से, फ्रॉम 1949 and 47. We have not been able to resolve our border. We've had one major war और उसके बाद 5-6 skirmish हुए. तो अगर मान के चलोगे कि यूएसए हम उनसे चाइना से लड़ाना चाहता है, मैं मानूंगा नहीं. और हमारे देश या और चाइना दोनों इतना बेवकूफ नहीं है कि यूएसए के कहने पर हम जाके दूसरे से लड़ लें. There's a balance of power which is happening. ये मानना पड़ेगा हमें कि चाइना पिछले 20 साल में ताकतवर बन गया है। अब भले ही वो आगे जाके इट विल डिक्लाइन, बट वो अगला 10 साल उसके लिए वक्फा है। तब तक आप कैसे हैंडल करोगे? अकेले नहीं कर सकते हो। अकेले कर सकते हो, अगर करना है अकेला तो आपका डेवलपमेंट और ग्रोथ सफर होगा। क्या वो मुनासिब है हमारे लिए? क्या ये मंजूर है? नो। सो हमें वी हैव टू टेक यूएसए का मदद। उसी तरीके से यूएसए को भी हमारा मदद चाहिए चाइना को निपटने के लिए। तो ऐसी बात, ये छोटे मोटे ये सोच जो है ना कि यूएसए आके हमें लड़वा रहा है ये वगैरह वगैरह, ये बाकी चैनल में कीजिए, इस चैनल में नहीं। इस चैनल में हमें बैलेंस ऑफ पावर की ओर सोचना चाहिए। हम एक बड़ा उभरता हुआ शक्ति है, हमारा सोच भी उतना बड़ा होना चाहिए, बड़ा सोच होना चाहिए। ये छोटे छोटे सोचों में हम उलझा के रहेंगे तो उल्टे ही रह जाएंगे। Right? Wouldn't investing in high technology mean they have to reskill the entire population? Do you think they can actually achieve this? That's a good question, Rahul. They can't. I'll tell you why. Because none of the technologies are original. Every technology is borrowed. And they're crying because they don't have the chips. Right? And high technology is a risky proposition. Risk can be taken only by private entrepreneurs. The governments don't take risk. The state-owned enterprises don't take risk. China has broken its entire private sector 3 years back. Now to expect the private sector to come back and invest and reskill and then start firing on all cylinders is a big ask. And that too under sanctions. Now these are technological sanctions. These are not monetary sanctions. These are technological sanctions which the entire Europe has got together on one side. It's very clear that China will not get technology from the West hereafter. So any technology China has to come up with on its own. And no one will buy Chinese technology. People who will buy Chinese technology are either Asian or Africa or maybe Latin America. They don't have the capacity to buy technology at high rates. Right? They would rather go in for better technology from the West. So China is now in a technology competition financially. China can undercut technology, but it is proving to be weak. And it recurringly keeps coming back that Chinese technology can collapse. And in this flood, lot of Chinese technology is getting exposed. Their airports, one of the major airports which they built, and then Xi Jinping inaugurated it maybe 2-3 years back and showed it to the whole world as a shining example of Chinese technology and efficiency and all, is underwater because poor drainage. Things are coming out. Just wait. Okay. सर, इंडिया का करप्ट पॉलिटिशियन जेलेंस्की जैसे ही यूएसए इंडिया और चाइना के बीच वॉर करे क्या यार? राजा छत्रसाल, आप अपना विचार बदली कर दो प्लीज। ऐसे सवाल मत पूछा करो। थोड़ा इस चैनल में ना थोड़ा सवाल भी थोड़ा स्तर अच्छा होना चाहिए। या hi sir, hope you are good. What do you think about the 5th generation jets for India when Pak will have only one and China will have one? Don't worry. Like I said, winning wars is not just because you have better equipment, right? Winning wars is a compact of many things. Other day I showed you that for good logistics, it's just not about your capability to produce. It's your capability to produce, your capability to transport, your capability to take it up and ensure it is there with the man who has to fire. There's a whole lot of human capability which is required. So don't worry. Pakistan, actually, I would recommend those who want to know the real status of Pakistan. see a channel called the Black Hole, and you'll see important guys in the Pakistan, think tanks and people who are being good ministers in Pakistan and all. They will come and talk about Pakistan. पाकिस्तान में उनको अगला खाना नहीं मिल रहा है, आप जेट की बात कर रहे हो, डोंट वरी अबाउट पाकिस्तान. As far as China is concerned, let's see what happens. So don't get upset that they'll have fifth generation and you won't have. And fifth generation jets do not guarantee victory. If that was the case, the most technologically advanced nation on the earth and the military on the earth, China, USA, had to run away from Afghanistan. And if you look at Vietnam's history, they defeated the French, the Americans, and the Chinese in their history, 49 to 79, with nothing. So be cool, okay? Don't get upset on all these things. You have to learn to fight well with what you have. That India is good at. Whether, when you actually fight, the opposite aircraft doesn't know whether it is fifth generation or fourth generation. कोई झंडा लहरा का नहीं आता कि मैं fifth generation तो मैं जीत गया. You have to fight. Okay, I am a doctor and I have very little economy, but Ashutosh Patak, where all he's again written somewhere. Yeah, if non-productive investment is liable on multiple states rather than banks who refuse to compensate with government debts, is China going to default? China will not default because the banks there are not independent of the government. Okay, the banks are an administrative system, part of the government. So China will not default. China will never default. The Chinese bubble will slowly come down because, like I said, in my thing on the debt bubble and all that, which I explained in my last episode, complete debt is being securitized and sold as bonds to people. So when everything fails, the people will have to bear the cost. So that is what the whole story is all about. To achieve option 3, which seems to be the best, they need to increase their salary. They can do it at a severe cost to their competitiveness, which, yeah, I agree with you. They have no easy options at all. That's why I said I will discuss this, where they are stuck and where they'll get stuck badly in times to come. That is why yesterday I got 3 young people to talk about the youth problems in China. Because you see, it is just not economy. There are real life problems with people. There are real life problems with aged people because as people keep getting aged, their expenditure needs will increase. Their pensions have to be given to people. Their health facilities have to be given, which is not there. So your economy will demand more money there also. Your social structures have to change. So they are in a big mess. Okay, many people don't realize it. If you have studied China the way I have studied, I am very clear. And whatever I have predicted about China so far has come correct. With manufacturing moving out and the lack of trust in China, how would they manage to maintain a trade surplus? They can't. That's the problem. That's what Michael Pettis also said, and he said this before pandemic. Right? Read that article. That article is one of the best articles on China I have read. Right? Okay. So they can't. That this option is virtually ruled out. Okay, apologies if this is covered later, and then that's okay, no problem. Pankaj Sinha ji, respected sir, USA and West aided and abetted China becoming world factory and its economic rise. I agree with you, but you have to see why. They did it because USA was running out of markets. And USA manufacturing was becoming costly and less competitive. So they said they offloaded a lot of things to China and using cheap Chinese labor benefited. It is colonizing in a manner, the same way what Britain did to India, America did to China. Only thing is, this time the Chinese behaved in a different manner. That's all. नहीं तो अभी तक चाइना भी would have been a second-rate colony of US. Okay, and we have to be conscious of what America is trying to do with this. यही इसीलिए मैं बार बार बताता रहता हूँ. India should not be another China. India should be a better India. We should have our plan. The blind belief कि फैक्ट्री लगा दो, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग शुरू कर दो, एक्सपोर्ट शुरू कर दो, ये कर दो, वो कर दोगे तो आपका पोल्यूशन में मारे जाओगे. हमारे पास जितने प्रॉब्लम्स हैं चाइना से 10 गुने हैं. अगर चाइना जैसा डेवलपमेंट मॉडल हम इख्तियार करेंगे तो हम नष्ट हो जाएंगे. और यही चाहते हैं यूएसए, वेस्ट वगैरह कि हम चाइना की तरह बिहेव करें. नहीं हो सकता. कुछ हद तक उनको भी पता है. हमें अपना, वी शुड लुक आफ्टर आवर नेशनल इंटरेस्ट द वे वी नीड इट. ओके. For what reason does China keep investing heavily in infrastructure in the military with their defense budget crossing? You see, they have no choice. They have no choice at this point of time but to invest in the infrastructure and military. They have no choice. They're committed. They want to use their military to coerce other people to trade with them. They want to use their military to protect their overseas investments which are increasing in BRI and all. अगर वो भी चला गया तो ये तो टप हो जाएंगे बिल्कुल. Okay, so if they don't have any alternative, they have to continue investing in infrastructure. अगर वो निकाल दिया तो वो फिफ्थ ऑप्शन में चला गया. फिफ्थ ऑप्शन में तो मतलब इनका जीडीपी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होना शुरू हो जाएगा. एक बार इनका जीडीपी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो गया, देयर विल बी सोशल प्रॉब्लम्स. द फंडामेंटल सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बिटवीन चाइना, the Communist Party and the people will be at risk. You have to understand that. That is why I keep saying I'm not worried about China. We should know how to handle it if we understand them. देखिए, इसीलिए मैं बार बार बताता रहता हूँ, प्लीज गेट मोर पीपल ऑन दिस चैनल. आपके दोस्तों को बोलिए इस चैनल में आए और इसको सर्कुलेट कीजिए. आपके व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप्स में सर्कुलेट कीजिए, आपके ईमेल से सर्कुलेट कीजिए, आप ट्विटर के जरिए सर्कुलेट कीजिए. और जो बाहर विदेश में रहते हैं, आप वहाँ तो बहुत और सिस्टम है, इंस्टाग्राम, ये वो, जो मैं नहीं जानता हूँ. आई एम अ बिट ओल्ड एंड टेक्नोलॉजिकली चैलेंज्ड. मैं एक पटरी पे चलता हूँ, टेक्नोलॉजी पटरी पे. So please spread this message. Understanding China is important. अगर हम चाइना को निपट लेना, हमें कोई नहीं रोक सकता. What steps should India take in BRICS summit to counter Chinese influence? कुछ नहीं, नाकार कर दो. ऑलरेडी हमने शंघाई कॉर्पोरेशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का जो वर्चुअल मीट हमने चलाया था, हमने चाइना को चलने नहीं दिया. We got Iran on our side and said no to BRI. Then what all in the declarations, they wanted to bring those things for part of the global development initiative and that phraseology of the global civilizational initiative, all that we took out. Incidentally, tomorrow morning आप सब देख लीजिए, मैं एक वीडियो जारी कर रहा हूँ अबाउट द साइनोसेंट्रिक वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर, और वो एक अलग अलग हिंदी और इंग्लिश में कर रहा हूँ. और उसमें मैंने ये दोबारा ये ग्लोबल इनिशिएटिव्स के बारे में जिक्र किया, क्योंकि ये जो ग्लोबल इनिशिएटिव, 5 इनिशिएटिव, दे आर द बेसिस ऑन विच चाइना वांट्स टू एस्टैब्लिश द साइनोसेंट्रिक वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर. कल देखिए और फिर हम बातचीत जारी रखेंगे. ये बिल्कुल मेरा चाइना सेंट्रिक चैनल है. जैसे China wants to establish a Sino-centric world order, I want to establish Gunner Shot as a China-centric YouTube channel. Respected sir, considering current situation in Pak, is it right time to hold plebiscite on nationality of POGK and Gilgit-Baltistan? What should be the possible outcome? We should hold no plebiscite. Plebiscite के बात ही मत करो, कुछ मत करो, अभी चलने दीजिए. एक प्रेशर कुकर है, उसको चलने दीजिए, फटने दो यार उसको. जल्दी क्या है? वो पीओजे और बल्टिस्तान पिछले 75 साल से वही है, कहीं भाग के नहीं जाएगा. वहां अशांति फैलने दो. आप अशांति फैलाने के लिए कुछ करो। इसीलिए मैंने जब जनरल दुष्यंत सिंह के साथ मैंने बातचीत किया, आपके कदम जो है ना पॉलिटिकल कदम होना चाहिए, उनको आउटरीच दीजिए, उनको मदद कीजिए, उनको बोल दीजिए कि आप इलेक्शन जारी रखो, बाहर जो है उनसे इलेक्ट करके उनको प्रतिनिधि बनाइए, यहाँ आपके जो 25 सीट आपने रखा है आपके असेंबली में, डू दैट पॉलिटिकल आउटरीच। द वर्स्ट थिंग इज प्लेबिसाइट, because if you do plebiscite there you have to do plebiscite here also, so don't attempt all that. अंदरूनी तरीके से दे शुड पीपल ऑफ पीओके पीओजेके एंड गिलगिट बाल्टिस्तान शुड से हम इंडिया के साथ जाना चाहते हैं, हर रोज वहां नारे लगना चाहिए, तब जाके मामला सुधरेगा। ये सब वहां जाके लड़ाई करो, प्लेबिसाइट करो, ये करो वो करो, करोगे तो वो बिल्कुल नहीं होगा, उल्टा काम है ये सब। आइदर यू कीप क्वाइट, चुप रहो, या उनको मदद करो लोकल सेंटिमेंट को आगे बढ़ने के लिए, पर वो अलग कहानी है, किसी और दिन बात करेंगे। सर, हाईटेक इंडस्ट्रीज नीड नॉट नेसेसरली लीड टू इंक्रीज एम्प्लॉयमेंट, बिल्कुल सही है, इट नीड नॉट, बिकॉज high-tech industries have very few people who can be employed there. They need to have a balance to meet the development needs. I agree with you completely. Completely. Okay. अराकैंट आर्मी मणिपुर हमले कर रही ने चाइना गन देता ही सर सुना है। मेरे को समझ में नहीं आया, पर जहां तक मेरे को आज अभी तक जो मेरे को खबर मिला है, जो भी मणिपुर में हो रहा है वो वहां अभी तक चाइना घुसा नहीं, अभी भी हमारे हाथ में है, पर हम उसको खराब कर रहे जा रहे हैं। जब तक हम सही कदम नहीं उठा सकते चाइना मणिपुर के अंदर, प्रॉब्लम है। इन माय ओपिनियन द फर्स्ट थिंग we should do is to restore peace, and the first thing to restore peace is to empower and enable the army all over the state. One. Number two, change the political system. Unless the current political dispensation is not changed, nothing will happen. Abhi bhi people are dying there, people are being killed. Keeping the same political dispensation is reinforcing failure. A special setup has to be brought into place to deal with the problem. The current thing has a failure, and so far it is a state administration which has failed. I think the time has come from hereafter the central administration will be seen to be failed. The central government seems to be failing in its task. Okay, the West will undoubtedly refrain from sharing even the slightest bit of sensitive military technology, as the Chinese have demonstrated their expertise in copying. Yeah, I agree with you that you don't expect anything great from them. Also, there are drought and flood. Majority of male and older population are jobless. China का future क्या होगा? यही हमारा अगला कार्यक्रम है। आशुतोष पाठक जी, आप सुनिए, क्योंकि वो लंबा कार्यक्रम होगा। हो सकता है मेरा सिर्फ बातचीत 1 घंटा से ज्यादा हो, क्योंकि मैं जिस तरीके से मैं बना रहा हूँ वो लंबे होता जा रहा है। उस कार्यक्रम को मैं छोटा नहीं करूंगा, क्योंकि जब तक आप भले ही 2 दिन के ऊपर देखो, 3 दिन देखो, उसको आधा घंटा देख लिया, आधा घंटा देख लिया, दोबारा आधा घंटा देख लिया, पर जब तक आप पूरा उसको नहीं देखोगे, उसका इतिहास आज और कल क्या होने वाला आपको पता नहीं चलेगा। और ये जो आप बता रहे हो, बिल्कुल हम कवर करेंगे। और आप एक मेरा क्या बोलते हो, वीडियो है ऑन इकोनॉमी, द ग्रेट लीप बैकवर्ड्स, वो देखिए, जिसमें मैंने ऊपर दृश्य बनाया था, चाइना वो जी जिनपिंग उल्टा जा रहा है अपना किताब लेके, ठीक है, आप उसको देखिए, उसमें आपको पता चलेगा इसके बारे में। ड्रग नेटवर्क ने बहुत बड़ा, यस बहुत बड़ा है। हमने अपना आज तक जो 4 वीडियो जारी किया मणिपुर के ऊपर, उन सब में हमने बताया, क्योंकि अफगानिस्तान में बंद हो गया तो वहां का जो ड्रग ट्रेड है यहाँ आएगा, वो आपको बड़ा खतरे में हो। हम सब खतरे में हैं। जब तक हम सही नहीं करेंगे हमें प्रॉब्लम है। और मणिपुर जितना डिले होता जाएगा वो अंतरराष्ट्रीय स्तर में भी हमारा इमेज खराब होता जाएगा, राइट। और मणिपुर एक सेंसिटिव स्टेट है, वो वी शुड टेक केयर ऑफ इट। देखिए, मैं आज भी बता रहा हूं, वहां कोई हिंदू क्रिश्चियन का कोई मसला नहीं है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, कोई कठिनाई नहीं है। हम वहां बहुत रह चुके हैं, 4 टेन्योर मेरा हो गया वहां। कुकी और मैती और नागास के बीच में हर वक्त किटपिट चलता रहता है, पर ये जो समस्या आज जो हुआ है वो कभी ना था। मैं तो ऐसे जगह रह चुका हूं, वहां 8 या 9 ट्राइबल सोसाइटीज थे, उसके अलावा उल्फा भी घूम रहा था, बंगाली वाले भी घूम रहे थे, मुस्लिम वाले भी घूम रहे थे बगल में। वो मेरा मेन एरिया था। फिर भी ये स्थिति कभी हमने नहीं देखा। और ये स्थिति जो है कंप्लीटली पॉलिटिकली मोटिवेटेड है। दैट इज व्हाई इट इज डेंजरस, राइट। व्हाट इज योर व्यू ऑन परपोर्टेड यूएस पाक सीक्रेट? ये तो चलता रह गया, डोंट वरी टू मच अबाउट इट। Manipur is more important than China. Is it going away every day? Look, Atul, China is at one level, Manipur is at one level. Both are equally important. But a country like India should have the capability to deal with both. Manipur is something which we are losing every day. I agree with you. That's what I've been saying. So we need to be careful about it. Okay, China's debt is to be 3 trillion by experts coming on YouTube channels. Do you know the breakup of this figure? I look, these figures mean very little to me. You can have 3 trillion, you can have 20 trillion. But you have to understand how debt is happening in China. तभी मैंने वो 3 दिन पहले मैंने वो किया। आप the debt can be 3 trillion. It could be 30 trillion. Who is going to pay for it? The people. Because the bankers have securitized the whole thing and they are selling it as bonds to people. You see, US में property crash जिस तरीके से हुआ था, if you understood that, the same thing is happening in China. That's why the crash won't happen in China because it's all internal. In USA, people who are giving mortgages to anyone who wanted to buy a house and without security. A chap will take a house, he'll not repay back. But the banker will give him a mortgage. He'll take that mortgage and convert it into a bond and sell it to someone else. That bond is then resold to someone else, and ultimately it comes to some other investor somewhere else, international investors. International investors buy that bond thinking that, look, this is based on someone's mortgage who's repaying X, Y, Z. Okay. When that didn't happen and that bonds crashed and everyone lost in that US crash, Fannie Mae, right, and all that. In China, it's a little different. The property chap takes a loan from the bank. The bank gives him the loan. He gives loan to the guy who's buying the flat also. The chap who's buying the flat gives the money to the property chap. The property chap doesn't give it to the bank. He puts it somewhere else. So the bank makes bonds saying, by after all, the collateral is the flat. But unfortunately, in China, the flat is not made. The collateral for this bond is the flat. कि भाई bond है, flat है, जिस दिन flat का कीमत बढ़ेगा, ये bond का कीमत भी बढ़ेगा, तो निवेश कर लो. So that is sold back to the guy to the public. So public buys bonds in the hope that the bond will give them return. All this is happening in China without a flag being built. It will not be built. So who will lose? The guy who's bought the plot and the guy who's bought the bond. The middle, nothing will happen. And if a bank collapses, the government will step in and pump that bank up. Because, like I said, in China, the banks are not different from the machinery. कल के दिन यहाँ HDFC डूब गया तो गवर्नमेंट विल नॉट बेल आउट HDFC. Okay, so there is China में the people who are getting weaker are the people, आम आदमी. उसका पैसा बच नहीं रहा, इसीलिए वो गरीब हो रहा है. अगर वो गरीब हो रहा है तो कंजम्पशन नहीं होगा, तो माइकल पेटिस का वो 30 चौथा कहानी नहीं होगा. अगर आप समझ में आ रहा है जो अभी ये सवाल पूछ के, आपको पता चलेगा क्यों कंजम्पशन नहीं होगा. क्योंकि मैन्युफैक्चरिंग नहीं हो रहा है, एक्सपोर्ट नहीं हो रहा है. ये बॉन्ड लेके बैठे हैं सबके, या फ्लैट खरीद के बैठे हैं. जो फ्लैट बनाए नहीं ना, बॉन्ड में रिटर्न नहीं मिल रहा. बॉन्ड लैप्स हो जाएगा, फ्लैट नहीं मिलेगा, आपके पास कागज रह जाएगा, आपके पास क्षमता नहीं है दोबारा खरीदने के लिए, आपके पास जॉब नहीं है, तो कंजम्पशन कहाँ होगा. इसीलिए चाइना का अर्थव्यवस्था डूब रहा है. इसीलिए मैंने वो 5 पॉइंट दिखाया. अगर आप सब लोगों को समझ में आया तो आपके दोस्तों को बोलिए, ये अगर चाइना में अंदर क्या हो रहा है समझने के लिए आप गन्ना शॉर्ट में आइए. The Chinese seem to be seething that India didn't allow any. How do you see this developing? ये कुछ नहीं होगा. ये चाइना का चाल है. चाइना के पास भी काबिलियत नहीं है कि एक अपना करेंसी चलाए. They want to do this through BRICS. They'll take control of this BRICS currency, which India will not allow. So let us see. In fact, next Sunday, next Sunday, I'm going to do a program with Strive, with General Dushyant. We'll talk of this then. Do you think business people will trust China? Who'll trust? Will you trust if you're a businessman? General sir, your background tonight is not filled with all that cool military stuff, but very simple. Oh yes, this has been done by my daughter. The rear wall has been painted by my daughter. So I thought, let me show you the different things. One has to be artistic also in life. Okay, why Germany and France are still promoting Chinese economy? Good question. This is because China and Germany are already invested in China. France and Germany are invested in China. They can't come out. If they come out, they'll suffer huge losses. Volkswagen is completely invested in China. So what do? They lose the market and they lose their investment. So that is why, if you see the new German strategy, it's very calibrated. They are going to de-risk. They're from decoupling, they've come to de-risking. Though Chinese look at it as the same. So there's going to be a lot of jockeying in the next 2-3 years. But overall, the China story is far, to my way of looking at it, is over. It'll take time. It's just because I said it's over doesn't mean China will collapse overnight tomorrow. That won't happen. China will not collapse. China will slowly start getting deflated. How it will happen? Wait for it. Next. Okay, your screen background tonight does not have we've answered this. What is the solution for open borders of India? How is it possible such large infiltration from Bangladesh, Myanmar? Is BSF failing or involved in it? There's a mix of everything. With Bangladesh, the border is fenced, but still somehow that we are not able to stop it. And no fence stops migration. When people have to go, they'll go. Okay, so that's how it is. Myanmar, the jungle is very thick. I don't think even if you put a fence, you'll be able to do it. You need tremendous amount of resources to stop infiltration from Myanmar border. And you are looking at 4 states, 3,000-kilometer border. Okay, and there are going to be social issues in that because the Kukichins and the Nagas, they have relatives on the other side. So there will be people this side who will want to go that side, and vice versa. who will always subvert your border surveillance. And you have to really go there to see. आप दिन में भी वहाँ अंधेरा लगता है कहीं कहीं, तो वो उस बॉर्डर में आप कुछ भी लगा दो, फेंस वेंस लगा दो, तो 2 दिन में काट के चले जाएंगे। और वहाँ का पेड़ इतने बड़े हैं कि वो आप उतना बड़ा फेंस भी नहीं लगा सकते हो, और उसको मेंटेन भी करना मुश्किल है। वो पेड़ से ही निकल जाएंगे। सो देयर आर लॉट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स देयर। इट्स इजी टू से स्टॉप इन्फिल्ट्रेशन, बट इट्स virtually impossible. The best part is to cool down Manipur and get things down and get the Myanmar Sarkar on your side and do it in a different manner. That whole thing needs a rethink. And the thing which makes me feel bad is our central government knows this and still they are not doing the right thing. That's the bad thing. Okay, if trade surplus option is chosen, and will it create demand for yuan and will it not work in favor? Yeah, trade surplus can only be done if you can have something to trade. So this is all imaginary. Where Raghavan, I think you're now gone into hallucinating differently. How effective are weapon locating radars like Swati? Very effective. It's better than the ANTPQ-37. I don't understand Burma's view regarding India versus China. Whom does Burma support, or are they remain neutral? You have to understand Myanmar very carefully. Myanmar is a country which will not support anyone. Even the Chinese are worried about Myanmar. Okay, uh, they are also very. If you think Burma has gone towards China, no. If you think they have come towards you, no. They will always act independently. Overall, they are a little more positive towards you because they are largely Buddhists, and the Buddhism has equation with India. One. Number two, historically, a lot of people from Myanmar used to trade with India. After all, at one point of time, Rangoon was a trading capital, a part of the British Empire uh, or the colonial system. So they have that affinity. They're not that comfortable with China. But China gives them money, so they go that side. So it's all transactional out there, right? Tomorrow, if they feel that you are the better off, they will this thing, and they'll always hedge, use India and China as a hedge. Okay, please share your views on weapon sale to Armenia, and will it affect international north-south corridor? We have no choice because Azerbaijan is being supported by Turkey and Pakistan. You have to counter them. One. Number two, it is international sale. Let them do what they want. There was a time when even Azerbaijan came to us. And I don't think it will affect the international north-south corridor. Don't worry. That part Iran will take care. The Chinese have targeted infrastructure with cyber warfare. Look, my view is this cyber warfare is being overplayed too much. There will be some glitches. After that, we'll come out of it. So don't worry too much. I don't worry. To me, cyber warfare is almost a non-existent thing. Right? I'm not too bothered about cyber warfare. So you did very powerful shows on Manipur. We are agonizing about Manipur and new violence in Haryana took place. You see, these two are slightly different. Okay, uh, what is happening in Manipur is engineered. I'll put it this way: it has happened due to political engineering. I'll not say more than that. What is happening in Nu has many dimensions to it, and it's in the hinterland. You can control it, whereas there the stakes are much more higher. I mean, I think that's far more important and critical. नो में 2 दिन चलेगा, 4 दिन वो बुलडोजर चला लो, ये कर लो, वो कर लो, कुछ कोर्ट केस होता रहेगा, चलता रहेगा, वो बंद हो जाएगा. But that is a bigger problem. That is an intractable problem. As it is, Manipur was in very difficult state of balance. Now it's gone into huge imbalance. AAI app. Okay. So Americans are under economic stress and seem to have started arming Pakistan. I don't think so. Americans will not arm Pakistan in a hurry. The American society is worried about Pakistan, and they feel bitter about Pakistan. So, do they want to start a war? No, they'll not want any. They are not interested in a war, right? They don't have the capacity to start another war in South Asia. They are stuck in Ukraine. They have to first come out of it and stabilize Ukraine, and then they have to cater for Taiwan, which is their uh, main priority. They cannot afford a war here, right? But they will cannot afford China entry here. They have to invest in Pakistan in some form or the other to keep Pakistan in check and ensure it doesn't go into China's hands. This is all part of the global power matrix. I've done 5 videos on global power matrix with General Ahuja, with Brigadier Arun Saigal, and General Vinod Bhatia, who was our DGMO. Please see these. You'll understand what the game is. America. Oh, we have said this. Yeah, and then seem to have started. I mean, do you want to start? Which could no. This, like I said, we have sorted it out. How max size the debt can grow and China purchase of US bonds is high now. No, they're selling off bonds. So don't worry. Yeah, you right, Viragwan, they're selling off bonds. Can we expect series of books from you, sir, so that it would be easy to read and suggest and gift to people? Having read from book, feel good. Look, I've written a lot of articles. I don't want to write a book. I don't have the capacity to write a book. But I've written a lot of articles. Go to my to Gunner Shot. I've categorized them under various headings. Maybe someday, if I club all these together, they'll become a book. And I have written a few books. I've written chapters for books. I've written a book on Northeast strategy as part of a JNU effort. I've written a book for NDC on firepower. I've written a book on Ukraine and firepower as part of someone else. I'll not write books independently. That I'm very clear, because I can only or run a channel or write a book. And plus the fact that I'm into a lot of technology in IIT Madras, which I cannot give up, which to me is more important. Uh, will China invade Taiwan? No, it will not. It can't. It look, ultimately it's a dictatorship. We don't know what it'll do, but logically speaking, it can't. If it does, it'll get into problems. If it does, it is because of certain uh, dire conditions. Okay, so that's how it is. Will China become the main weapon supplier to Pakistan? It already is. It is already so in Iran, Africa, and all. But Iran will not buy Chinese weapons beyond a point. Iran has got its own. Iran is a different country altogether with a different ideology altogether. It's a very difficult country and a tricky country to handle. But China will not get to the level of what Russia was. It will never happen, because people know that people don't trust China at the base. The BRI, they have spread their tentacles, but they've lost trust also. How many days before we can be sure China is going for that? Let's see how it comes. You will get at least 15, 20 days notice. It's not easy to hide an amphibious operation. Uh, when you do an amphibious operation, the ships have to come in place, and those ships have to move. A lot of mobilization has to take place. A lot of logistics has to be built up. Actually, if I go back to Vijaya, if you see the channels, I mean the Second World War, where the Normandy invasion, the Normandy landings, the whole story started at least 3 months before. There'll be a lot of deception in play and everything. And China these days, you can't deceive anything, so it's going to be very difficult for China to deceive anything. Global economy was dithering since 2008. It is surprising that the economic planners did not take proper. Well, this is something which you cannot think. People took the measures they could. Aditya Kulshrestha, for the first time, I have listened to many Indian ex-general. India should not expand its boundaries. Why? Where this ideology originated? This is historical. We don't have the capacity to expand our boundaries. We don't have the wherewithal to do so. We don't have the economic wherewithal to do so. The day you have the economic wherewithal to do so, we can start thinking of that. Till then, keep quiet. Our military is underfunded, in case you don't know. I might be with the government, but that doesn't mean I cannot criticize the government. This government and the governments before have not made your military strong. They have not. Your economy is not strong enough. If your economy is not strong and your military is not strong, how do you think you'll go and expand your boundaries? That's living in wonderland. Yeah, this is this is not ideology. It is cold logic. Planning. Yeah, Iraqis are burning their guest nation's embassy. Why have they gone mad? Or is it people like, yeah, these are trend lines. Let them do what they want. Yeah, let them do what they want. Hey, just don't retype your questions for me to see. Just type it once and leave it. I'll see. Okay. Kalyani coming up with artillery factory producing 1 ton per day. Sorry, they're not doing it. And Adani with Asia largest ammunition factory. Again, it's not. This is all newspaper reporting. Okay, we don't have that capacity. Adani doesn't have explosive capability. It doesn't have licenses for explosives. Okay, so don't think that Kalyani and Adani will change the Indian scene. In any case, Kalyani can come up with any number of guns. Unfortunately, not a single gun of his has been tested and tried by Indian Army. If the Indian Army starts testing and trying today, it will take another 5 to 10 years for them to start accepting it. Okay, and there has to be a gun acquisition program. The only gun acquisition program which is in the open thing is of the mounted gun system, and that is open bidding. There are about 8 to 10 people bidding for it. So we don't know who will get it, and that process has just started. Nothing. Don't get taken. The Adani, ye wo bada naam aa gaya. They don't have the capacity to make ammunition. It takes a long time to handle ammunition and explosives. Read an article that India will skip the Talisman cyber military exercises. Media is projecting it as not wanting to offend China. I don't think so. There must be other reasons for it. Yeah, are we still? No, no, I don't think so. We are not bothered also. Uh, Deepening financial resources, depleting financial resources. How long can China continue to pay nations, political entities? See, every nation has the capability to do what it wants to do to further its national interests. Like Pakistan does. Pakistan के पास तो यार कल के लिए अनाज खरीदने के लिए पैसा नहीं है पर वो जेट खरीद रहे हैं. So they will do it. And that way China has got a lot of money. So no, don't worry about it. What should India do to prevent Russia from becoming client state of China now? Diplomacy, nothing else. Should India normalize relation with Afghanistan to counter China? Yeah, we have not normalized. We have to reach out to the people. The biggest plus point there is people of Afghanistan. We cannot normalize relation with Taliban, but we have to keep talking with them. When do you see our India equate with China in every aspect, especially economy and defense? It will take another 20 years. Yeah, P07. Do you think Pakistan military is better at land compared to China? Fighting qualities, Pakistan is a tougher one. Uh, I have no doubt about it. It will be the Pakistan army is a motivated and a well-trained army, right? And they're well practiced and they're battle inoculated. So you'll have difficult and they're used to fighting, right? So that's a difficult more this thing. Yeah. Gaurang, sir, considering that ASEAN and other friendly countries trade oil passes through the Malacca Strait, how will a blockade against China be affected by India oblique Cod? There are methods. It's going to be difficult. The bill of sale, flag, everything comes into play, and something which is a Quad has to formulate. I'm sure there is something in the air. That is why you see China going in for food security because they know if the Malacca Strait gets blocked, their food security is at great risk. That's why you see Xi Jinping today these days talking of food security. SSS Defense seems to be good small arms manufacturer. I really don't know who they are. I've not heard of them beyond a point. Why you have some military establishment in view on China? Do they have pragmatic view? Look, the mm, the American thinking is very clear. Okay, and they're pretty clear when I spoke to them last how to deal with China. Right? Their worry fundamentally is, will they be in time? Will they be able to sustain? You have to understand, America is a out of area power in this area. They have to fight from far. Okay. Whereas the fight over Taiwan will take place near China, where China will be strong. That's their problem. Otherwise, they know how to handle things. And Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Philippines, unless they get together, they can't handle China. For that, they need India. One small nation alone can't handle China. It will take a combined effort to handle China. Okay. Uh, Many people say Ukraine war was mistake of West, but I think it is planned to weaken Russia, China, West before taking on China. Yeah, see, there are a lot of theories about Sunil. There are a lot of theories about the Ukraine war. Why it has happened, X, Y, Z. It is to weaken this relationship. All that. All of them are correct, and none of them are correct. It depends on how you look at it. But the more interesting aspect is, where is it leading us? आगे क्या होगा? Why? The causative factors today are irrelevant. What is going to happen ahead? That's the more important thing. More important thing is, as if it continues, your inflation is going to go up. If it continues, Russia is going to be enmeshed in that. If it continues, Russia China relationship will increase. But at the same time, as Russia keeps getting weakened, China's thing will go up. But then, at the same time, if Russia keeps getting weakened, China will become isolated. There are a lot of combinations coming up. They're all uncertainties. If you see in this whole game, it is India which alone has come out stronger in this whole story. And I look at it from that point of view. Okay. And as far as inflation is concerned, continues because of this Ukraine war, the buying capacity in the West will not be there. If the buying capacity is not there, be there, China can't manufacture. If the Chinese can't manufacture, their jobs go. If the jobs go, their consumption go and go. You see that revolution coming back and back and back. So you have to look at it from all round. That's the whole story. Okay. Oh, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Latya. Latya Pachpan, Harkate Bachpan. Yeah, that's a nice one. Okay. So, what type of games US playing with? Oh, well, they'll keep playing games. This is not a game. This is a balance of power matrix which is going on. This is balance of power equations which are on. We have to be smart. देखिए बात यह है कि forget what USA is playing. What is your game? आपका खुद का गेम प्लान क्या है, ये करो, ये सोचो पहले. Okay, I know your hands are full to write a book, but just by editing your articles make volumes of book. I agree with you. Let me see what I can do. Does US want that India and China fight with each other and then you? No, I don't think that's the aim. US is stuck because it knows anything happens in this area, there'll be spillovers to affect it. In fact, I will put it this way: China is more aggressive than USA in this entire area. Okay, and USA is more on the back foot. There's a Rand study which they did 4 years back. As per that study, which I think is still relevant, the Chinese capabilities. Okay, in a US China equation, military equation, the capabilities of either will increase depending on where the battle takes place. Okay, if the battle takes place nearer to China, China is stronger. If the battle takes place farther away from China, China becomes weaker. That's why China can't enter the Indian Ocean. China doesn't have the capability to enter the Indian Ocean in strength today. It cannot come to South China Sea, down south, and do anything. It doesn't have the capability, and I don't think it'll ever have the capability. But it has tremendous capability along its coast. And for USA to come all the way there and fight is a difficult proposition. Okay, right? India and China can't fight each other. They are not fools. If we fight, both will go away. We are not fools to get involved in a fight. So we'll have to manage the border. So the jockeying between India and China will be for reputation. They will input reputational costs on us. That's the idea. Let us see where it goes. Okay. Any case, after Yangtze, November, when they got a slap on their wrist, they have not misbehaved. Let's see whether they can misbehave. It's been 8 months since then. Okay. This is a personal question. Do you think Bangalore have better taste or Tamilian? I'm neither Tamilian nor a Bangalorean. I'm a Andhraite. Okay. And all have equal taste. Any crucial lessons for us from Russia? I've done a full video on this. Aap dekhiye. I've done a full video on lessons, the politico-military lessons of the Ukraine war. I've done the lessons on one of the first videos जो मैंने जारी किया था on lessons on Ukraine war in from my channel was on Ukraine war only. Yeah, have a look at it. I did it on the first anniversary of Ukraine war. Swapnil, go into the thing. One of the first ones I did is this. America's involvement to strengthen Asian countries alongside Japan will pay. Yeah, it will. It will give it a lot of heft overall. I did a course once in USA in which most of these Asian country people were there. Yeah, very significantly, USA has got its fingers in all these full. It's got them quite tight. So right. Okay. Any crucial? Yeah. Same from manpower, equipment, and all that. I've done this in full detail. Okay. Right. I think, and in fact, I've done one on artillery also and Ukraine war, which I've compared. That was recent. Okay. I compared Kargil and Ukraine war and everything. So have a look at it. Yeah. Thank you for making an open session Q&A. Yeah, you can ask anything. There's no problem. There's no issue at all. I'll do it. I'll keep doing it every Sunday unless something else comes up. But I think we've come to the end of the show. Thanks a lot. Good evening. And my final request to all of you, I keep tweeting this out. So please tweet it out. Right. And I'm going to add my UPI number in the description so that any contributions you can make directly onto the UPI number without going through Twitter. Right. So that's what I'm going to do from the next video onwards. And of course, like I said, all money which I'm going to get, I'll either give it to people who come on the channel, and I'm not going to give them money. Let me be very honest. I'm going to give them books to read, and I'm going to educate girl children. So that's my aim, because the money which you get in this is hardly anything as far as I'm concerned. Okay, thanks a lot. Good evening and Jai Hind. And please come back. More than contribution, everything, I want more people to listen to me, because as a nation, we have to be more stronger from all around. Good evening and Jai Hind.